Seren-T. So just to clarify the name, you asked the question before, Orge. Immunical used to have the product PNT200. Now, we still use that name in certain countries, but we felt that in North America, it didn't seem to reflect what the product was about. PNT stood for the French term peptide natural tranquille, or nature's tranquil peptide. But if you didn't know that, the PNT wouldn't make any sense. So we branded it as Seren-T, Seren-T, Seren-T 200. And the subtext on the bottle says, all natural bioactive milk peptide. Let's see what that means. Well, the 200 part implies 200 milligrams. Now, 200 milligrams of what? Of a bioactive substance with the scientific name alpha-casozepine. And that's a bit of a mouthful, but that is the scientific name of the molecule that is active in Seren-T200. What is casozepine? It's a small protein, and we call it a peptide because this peptide is made up of 10 little amino acids found in milk. So it's called a decapeptide, meaning deca, 10 amino acids that make this peptide. How this was discovered, let me tell you a fascinating story. So scientists asked a few simple questions. What did your grandma tell you to have a glass of warm milk if you wanted to go to sleep? Why did she tell you that? What is it about a warm glass of milk that has an anxiolytic or sedative effect? And if you look at all mammals, you'll see the same thing. What do all puppies and kittens and baby lambs and what do they all do after they drink milk from their mommies? Well, they fall asleep. And so we used to think that we wondered what it was in warm milk that caused this. And we used to think that it was the amino acid tryptophan that caused this effect, but in fact, studies showed that the amount of tryptophan in milk was way too low to do this. So several other suspects were lined up, but none of these panned out. It wasn't until a group of French scientists managed to isolate the active ingredient that made these babies sleepy. It took them 10 years of research to figure this out. Eventually, we got a hold of the milk-derived substance, which fit perfectly into what we do at Immunotech. We have milk-derived substances. And so for you keeners out there, this alpha-casozepine is derived from a subfraction of a type of casein hydrolysate. Now, there's a mouthful. Just saying that alone will put you to sleep. Now, you've all heard me say before, what are the three most important things to a researcher, to a scientist, or to a doctor when evaluating a product? Research, research, and research, in that order. And there's some beautiful research done on this peptide, most important. Here's one study. Seren-T was compared to a placebo in a case control study using over 60 women. They examined the effects on stress that this compound had. Remember, the most important studies worth considering before recommending a substance are human trials, not animal, not test tube studies. And look at some of the results. Improvement in sleep, in attention, in memory, in concentration, and even digestive issues. very impressive. And if you do statistical analysis on these, so many of them are quite significant changes. Again, you want your results to be statistically significant. So how does this peptide work? Well, when you label these molecules with a marker and follow where they actually go to, it seems that they get absorbed into the same area of the brain that benzodiazepines go to, what we call a GABA receptor. And what's a benzodiazepine, you ask? Benzodiazepines are a bunch of medications you've likely heard of, like Valium, like Xanax, like Ativan, and others. So remarkable. Don't you just love science? And just a word of caution, if you had issues with benzodiazepines in the past, please use this product with caution. But this is not a drug. It's a natural substance found in mother's milk. In this case, cow's milk, cow's mother's milk. And very French speaking cows at that. And no additives, no antibiotics, no steroids, no pesticides. So let me ask you, who do you know who has stress or anxiety? Who do you know who has problems sleeping? I don't know anybody who's not experienced this from time to time. Okay, now when taking Seren-T200, how much is? Well, everybody has different degrees of stress, so it depends on you. Start off with 1 to 2 capsules to see how it affects you. Some people will quickly feel the results, others will have to increase the dose. It probably takes about a half an hour to an hour to kick in, and it generally lasts 6 to 8 hours. All right, that's the essential information that you need to have. But wait, there's so much more that people have not yet appreciated about Seren-T200. It can be used as a weight management tool. We need to talk about cortisol levels. Let me explain. When human beings are under stress, this can be mental or physical stress, we pump out extra cortisol, which is a hormone. And when there are persistently high levels of cortisol, we start to produce fat. Now, why do we do this? Because many years ago, before we had a fridge to run to or a supermarket, we were hunters and gatherers. And for most of human history, we've been subjected to periods of starvation, hunger, long winters, all of which we had to survive. This clearly raised stress levels and caused fat deposition. And having a good fat supply to tap into during these difficult times represented life or death. So, without getting into the physiology of cortisol and fat deposition, this survival mechanism is well understood. Stress can lead to fat accumulation. Now, some of you who already have insomnia may have seen some of these late night commercials. Cortisol blockers, lose weight, burn fat away. I guess these are now appearing on Instagram and Twitter posts as well. Do these actually work? Do these substances block cortisol? So I did a little checking up in the research literature. It seems to contain something called magnolia bark. This has been used in traditional Chinese medicine in the past. And this has actually been studied, but not in humans. I didn't find any human studies. And you know what I think about that. These studies were mostly done in rodents in China. What I really need to see are human studies. And this is where our little decapeptide has. This is what Seren-T has. Let's look at an example of one of these studies. In this case, exactly answering the question, does Seren-T200 reduce cortisol levels? Here again, women were the subjects of the study, but really fit women who were biathletes. Now, for these athletes, the training was made more and more intense, causing stress, which of course released cortisol. And we see here in the charts, cortisol is in blue, that the placebo groups, cortisol kept getting higher and higher, but in the Serenity group, it did not. Quite remarkable. So all this in hand, this is a really very remarkable substance with far-reaching effects, not just mental stress, but physical stress and even weight management. So Immunitech's intention here is turning this into this. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jimmy Gannon, for the lecture. And I'm sorry for the mic.
No problem.
So I have one question here from
Yes.
Veronica Range. My grandmother, who is 87 years old and on dialysis, is having a hard time sleeping. Is she able to take Seren-T?
Yes, she can. Have her start with a low dose. Just take one tablet and see how she feels. If one doesn't seem to be enough, then easily you can double it up. But there's no contraindications to take it with dialysis.
Great.
Thank you, Doc. I have a French question here from Marie-Catherine Paquin. Can I take it while I am breastfeeding?
There's a medical answer and there's a legal answer, and I'm going to have to stick with the legal answer, which is you probably should avoid it because we haven't actually tested it in women who are lactating. I I really wouldn't know what to expect, so let's avoid it.
Well, actually, I guess it will be the same answer for this one. Can a child with anxiety can take Seren-T? And if so, one capsule or less? He is 9 years old.
He's 9 years old. Well, again, I don't think that we have the right to market this to a pediatric population. In most countries, a pediatric population is defined as under 18, but it will change from country to country. But honestly, if you're a fully grown teenager and you need a little bit of help to sleep once in a while, it's certainly not going to hurt you. I wouldn't use it every night for sure. But again, the legal answer, it's should be confined to adult use.
Thank you, Doc.
I have a question from Tina Rempel, who is saying, at what time of the day is the best to take Seren-T?
Well, Serenity, it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it to sleep, then you would take it, let's say, an hour before you get to bed or before you expect to sleep. So that's a clear answer. People are using it as well as an anxiolytic, in other words, against anxiety. And again, it may depend on when in the day you feel most anxious. So again, if there is a timing in effect, then try to take it an hour before you enter an anxious situation. However, if you're using it for something like weight control, then probably I would take one pill twice a day, once in the morning and once later on in the day. So it depends on what the indication is.
But it's a nice answer, actually. Okay, yeah, because anxiety makes you eat more, right? Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Um, just let everyone, I have a testimony on this. I started to take Seren-T, Serenity, a couple of years or 3 years ago, and it made me sleep. And I can take only one pill before sleeping, as you told me, I think 4 or 5 years ago. But I know persons who got into anxiety and they are taking four before going onto stage. So for me, four will be killing myself for sure. No, but I know people who is taking four.
Yes,
I have one.
we all react differently, and we all have different levels of stress. So yeah, you really need to start off slow and then build up.
Totally. I have another one. Well, autism. Does it help in any sense with autism?
There are better things that we could use in autism. Certainly, the Immunical would be the first thing that I would reach for to treat autism. Now, if you have an autistic child that is particularly anxious, well, then you may consider it. Again, but I just said autistic child. I'm kind of going against what I said before. This has only been approved for adults. Um, so if you're an autistic adult and you're feeling anxious or you're having problems sleeping, then certainly you can use this.
I have a very good
Actually,
question.
oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, just I want to, because I was reading this question, but I didn't get it the first time. Elizabeth Segura, she made a question regarding K21 or Canoe trick in Mexico, because we have been saying that it's anti-stress as well, K21. The new K21 helps with the stress. And what is the difference between K21 and Serenity or PNT200?
Yeah, they work entirely differently. There's no one answer for stress. There are different kinds of stress, and there are different ways to attack it. In the case of Seren-T200, it has a decapeptide that works like Valium. It works in the GABA receptors in the brain. Whereas in K21, we're looking at an adaptogenic. And an adaptogenic works in entirely different method. And an adaptogenic, what it does, it resets your stress thermostat so that if you're too low or you're too high, it will try and get it closer to normal. So it works differently, and there's no reason why you couldn't take the two together.
Dylan, do you want to go?
Sorry. No, yeah, I just wanted to get back to the question you made on autism. I have just shared right now in the chat the video Dr. Gutman made on glutathione and autism, actually. So you can find the link right here in the chat. I'm pretty sure you will get all the answer you need.
Thank you very much, Dylan.
I have a statement from Miguel and questions. He says, I love Serenity. I use it a lot. I'm a medical doctor. Can you tell us, Dr. Jimmy Gutman, the name of the 10 amino acids that this decapeptide has? I don't know.
I would have to look that up. But the whole molecule is called alpha casezopine, and that would be the best way to look it up. And so this program, I'm sure, Jorge, you will be replaying so he can look at the slides again. So if he's interested in the actual decapeptide and the amino acids that make it up, look up alpha casezopine.
Actually, we can make a challenge to anyone who can pronounce it in like you are doing now. So, well, I think we are mostly covered.
I
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
one question here. I hope it has something to do with that. I just looked up on the internet. I think it does. So I am 50 years old with hydrocephalus, recently diagnosed just 2 weeks ago. How much should I consume so it can help me while my LCR or CSF is being removed? Sorry, Doc. I hope it's
No, that's okay.
okay.
So hydrocephalus is It's an accumulation of fluid, the cerebrospinal fluid, where it gets too much and it builds up in the skull. And so one of the treatments is to drain the fluid. So he's asking how much PNT 200 or Seren-T 200 he can take. Again, Orge said that he takes one and it knocks him out, and other people take four and it barely touches them. Um, it depends. So it really depends how many of these procedures you're going to have. I would probably start off in this case with at least two Seren-T 200s. You may need more, but start off with two and see how you feel.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Jean-Francois is mentioning that he's taking all the time before going to the dentist. So yeah, for any situation, yeah, that's totally fine. Like any situation that can cause anxiety, of course, go ahead with that.
Well,
And
actually, Jean-Francois, I do that too. I really I don't like being in the dental chair, so I will take some Seren-T 200 before I get I get to the dentist.
I have one question from Gabi here. She's asking if it will help. I'm not sure about this disease or this syndrome, but it says, it help me having Cushing syndrome? I'm not sure.
No, no, no. The effect isn't. It wouldn't be strong enough to lower enough cortisol.
Okay. No, I think we cover all the questions. So, well, guys,
Good.
remember the recording will be shared in the following days. I think we are gonna start putting these recordings in our back office. So be aware and merci beaucoup, Dr. Jimmy Garland. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias a todos por conectarse.